Welcome back to the Ultimate Pool Pro Cup. We've reached the Group A final. Shane Thompson versus John Rowe, who we've just seen come through that match with Greg Batten. No break for him, straight back on and breaking off in this final. It's another race to 7, and we've had another switch around in the commentary box as Gareth Potts has moved from the studio into the commentary box to join me for this one. And another fascinating match, but one I think probably give the edge at the moment to Shane with the way he's playing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think on performances of first matches, you have to put Shane a huge favourite for this match. But of course, it doesn't always work like that.
Yellow ball's in play.
I guess the one big thing going in John Rowe's favour is the fact that his performance in the previous round against Greg, he actually broke really, really well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the other thing that's going in his favour is the way that he breaks, and especially the way that he's broke this first break, because he has absolutely belted that first break, and the yellows could not have come out any better. Not only did he make a couple of balls, but all of the yellows were sitting ducks in the middle of the table. And it's always nice when the reds are out of the way, so there's no traffic for the cue ball to run into anywhere.
And important when you're playing against somebody that's in the sort of form that Shane is, that you get off to a good start and start to put him under pressure, because he's absolutely flying at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a good point, because somebody like Shane at the minute that's played so many matches out on this TV table and obviously playing so well at the minute, I think it's important that John stamps his authority on this match and almost says to Shane, look, I'm here to play.
I think he's done that with a 1:20 breaking clearance, not quite the 28 seconds that you managed to achieve a few weeks ago, but still very, very quick start to this match for John Rowe, all built on the back of that brilliant opening break, and he's off and running. So he's going to ask a question of Shane, but Shane did clear his final 4 breaks in his earlier match with Neil Raybone, so he's also breaking incredibly well.
Yeah, and I did say at the start of the show before John's match that his weapon is his huge break, and because of that, makes him dangerous in any tournament he plays. Whenever you have a break like John's got,
Shane Thompson to break,
and it is a natural power and a natural timing. When you possess that and you have that in the locker, when you get that going, you are a danger in any tournament and any match that you play.
I also think that John's starting to find the confidence that took him to the world title in 2012. He's starting to rediscover a little bit of form. The results may not be showing it yet, but just little sort of inklings here and there through his matches of late.
Yeah, and in contrast to the break off that John hit, you see this, what you're trying to do as a player is you're trying to hit that front ball as central as you can. So I suppose if you imagine that you draw an 8-inch line across the back cushion, you're trying to get the cue ball back to within an 8-inch area. And as you saw there, he almost hit it that bad that he nearly went off in the right centre as we look. So not only is it dangerous with the cue ball flying around, but you lose a lot of power because the power isn't transferring through the pack because you're not hitting the front ball head on.
Delicate shot left here for John if he wants to take the red to the top left. You see him have a good look at it. It does go, but it is very tight. You see this from the overhead.
Yeah, and he would like to have been straighter on it, obviously, because when a ball is tight, when you're right behind it, it's
extension called
where you need to be.
Do you think he should still play it? Because he's going away from it now, but if he does get straight on it, then it's harder to play good position off it. Not impossible, of course, but could just become more of a problem ball for him.
Oh, he's played this one nice. He's not only landed on his awkward ball on the cushion, but he's landed on it with an angle so he can get the cue ball out, and he will play on that tight one next, I think. So you see the angle that he had, he was able to get out into the middle of the table.
Well, he's decided not to go for the awkward one.
Well, going this way tells you that he's decided to leave it until last. And it isn't a major problem. He doesn't need to do a great deal with the cue ball. Maybe just nip it back 2 or 3 inches. And already to me, John just looks okay. Granted, he's had a couple of quite easy-ish finishes, shall we say here, but already to me he looks a little bit more relaxed.
So this is the key shot. Just don't flick the yellow. No problems. So a really well worked clearance from John Rowe. One semi-awkward ball there. Decided to leave it till last. No mistakes. And punishes the dry break from Shane Thompson. Takes that 2-0 lead. Let's have a quick look at his profile. You can see that he hasn't had the season he really wanted to, but he has taken a bit of a break from the game, and with everything that's going on with Ultimate Pool, decided to make a comeback. And you can see it's taken him a little bit of time, I think, to find his top game. But when you've got a world title to your name, then you know that what you're capable of, and that confidence can return if you work hard and keep plugging away. A few decent wins on the season, but no decent runs of note.
Leading 2 frames to 0.
Best performance on the year was a quarter final. And another good break in terms of he's made a ball. Quite the power of the first break, but
yeah, and you see, as I was talking about, you're trying to get the cue ball back to within an 8-inch area of the middle of that back cushion. And he almost hit an identical place on that right side cushion that Shane hit on the previous break. Only difference being John made a ball and Shane didn't.
It's the first chance where he's really got to work hard, though. Looks like he still wants to take them on. How does he develop that red on the right-hand side? That's awkward.
Yeah, I think he would have liked to get into it now off this one that's closest to this bottom cushion. But that's too thin. But now he's perfect. So now he is gonna pop this one into this bottom corner, bottom left-hand side, and spin the cue ball into that bad ball. Something like that. Great shot.
It's just come out awkward. I think I'd have preferred a fuller contact on the red to send the red up the table and stay on the one to the left centre, which he is still on, but it is thin, or thinner than he wants.
Yeah, and you may think, what's wrong here? But the yellow that's in front of the cue ball is just making this a little bit tricky. As you can see there, it's just a little bit fiddly because he has to be careful. Obviously, he doesn't touch the yellow when he delivers the cue. That would be a foul.
Would you be tempted, if the in-off's not on, just to drop this in and play for the red to the top of the table, take an awkward position?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I would play. I would just take it, and sometimes when you're playing 8-ball pool...
Oh, he'll take that.
Oh,
That's a good nudge.
Well, he did half hold his hand up in acknowledgement, but that is a huge slice of fortune there for John Rowe.
Well, he did manage to get there. That was a very good nudge for John Rowe, and you could see Shane in the corner of the screen there shaking his head. He knows that was a very good nudge for John, and so far he's played one shot in the match and he finds himself 3-0 behind. As we take a quick look at his profile, and this is the season that everybody wanted. #1 player in 2021, but 3 titles to his name, 4 finals out of 8 events. Is an incredible season from Shane. Absolutely brilliant. But look at what he's achieved before that. Plenty of titles with England, 5 times a UK Tour champion. So he's a player that knows what it's like to win big tournaments, but he's really elevated himself up the sort of the pool world really in the last 12 months.
4th frame.
Yeah, I think
Shane Thompson to break.
saying it came out of nowhere is maybe doing him a little bit of an injustice, but it certainly was a shock that it came with the relentless winning that it did. I mean, I don't think it would have been a major shock if Shane Thompson won one of the events.
Well, he's up and running here, and in terms of he gets his first opportunity, much better break.
Yeah, much better break, but you see, lost the cue ball to that right side cushion a little bit, and amazingly, I don't know if you noticed that, but the top left corner, as we look, one of the yellows actually came back out of the pocket there. And I think it was actually this yellow that he's about to pot now was the ball that came out.
Well, yeah, which actually helped him. Talked a lot, I did in the first match, about Shane's temperament, but manages to just keep himself in check and play the chance that's at hand. Well, this is where he really does need that temperament. 3-0 down. Here's a race to 7. Can't afford to let this match get too far away from him. This is the time he wants to get going. Hampered queuing on his next shot.
Yeah, he just needs to mind his work here a little bit, because everything pots, so he doesn't need to play any sort of cannon. You see a little bang of the cue and a sigh and a puff of the cheeks there from Shane, but you have to say the shot before was the bad one, not necessarily that one, but the shot to leave himself there was quite unlike Shane Thompson with his sort of incredible cue ball control. That's normally immaculate.
For me, this becomes the biggest visit in the match here. Not only is it a chance for 4-0, which is a massive lead, but also it's the first mistake really that Shane will have made in the match. Really punish it from John, and he should as well, the way they're laid out.
John looks to me as though he's almost changed his attitude from the first match, as though he's almost feels like he almost say got away with one in that first match, but either player will probably feel like they could and should have won it. And I think when you feel like that and you feel like you've got away with a match, that you're almost free rolling a little bit. And it looks to me as though that's what he's decided to do, and that he's just let his arm go a little bit, and he feels like he can just free roll, because he could have quite easily obviously lost the match to Greg. So nothing to lose type mentality, and got away with it a little bit, but the cue ball was all around the world a little bit there, Simon, but he got the job done.
Yeah, he got the job done and punishes the mistake, and that's not a facial expression we've seen much from Shane Thompson this year, and this is why the positional shot that went wrong for him, that didn't need to be anywhere near that red, and the pot to the top corner now is the one that he misses, and that's the mistake that's cost him the frame.
Yeah, and I think an important thing to mention is the way Shane plays, and sometimes how easy he makes the game look. It is very easy sometimes, but when you're 3-0 ahead, 4-0 ahead, it's a lot easier than when you're 3-4-0 behind, and them chances do become that little bit harder, and then positional shots do become a little bit more tricky to play. Just as we see John absolutely crunches the break once again.
Comes up dry, so Shane's got a chance to once again get going in this match. But just going back to that positional error from Shane, it is only it's a fine margin. He's only out by half a roll here or there. It's amazing how precise you need to be at times at this game to keep the game easy for yourself.
So first shot here, going straight after his bad ball.
Yellow going in is no problem. He will still be reds because that's the colour set he was potting.
So this cluster of 4 balls here in the middle of the table, where there's 2 reds and 2 yellows, that was his target with the cue ball there, just to develop those 2 awkward reds, and it was quite a big target actually, so he'll be disappointed that he missed that.
He's tried to move them again and hasn't managed to do so. Okay, he's on one of them, but it doesn't open up the next one, so this chance gets harder.
Yeah, and the problem is he's running out of balls to develop the bad one. He does have a shot here that he could pot the red into the top corner and screw back and just try and bump his bad red out into play. So the first rule whenever you're playing a cannon is get the first part of the shot right, and the most important one, and that's pot the ball that you're actually playing. And I'm sure that everybody that's ever played pool before will know that that happens so often, where you're concentrating so much on what's happening with the cue ball, you forget about the most important part, and that's the pot.
Yeah, and well, we're seeing Shane Thompson in a position we've just not seen him of late. He's under pressure and making a couple of mistakes that we haven't seen for a long time, and that was a lovely double from John to get this chance going, identifying the one bad ball there and straight after it, and then the rest of the work is laid out for him. John does look like he's playing with a lot of freedom.
And the key to good positional play isn't always being dead straight on the ball that you're playing next. It's about leaving the correct angle. So this example here, John knew that he needed an angle to stun the cue ball over to the left side of the table, and that's exactly what he's left. Again, left the perfect natural angle just to drift the cue ball down into the middle of the table. And it's all about the natural angles. If you leave the natural angle all of the time, you just have to concentrate on the pot, not what the cue ball's doing.
Brilliant stuff from John Rowe. Wry smile there. But he'll be thrilled. Punishes another mistake from Shane Thompson. 5-0 up, 2 frames away from the quarter-finals. A very, very solid performance from John so far, but a couple of mistakes that we're not used to from Shane, and I think we can take a look at the latest one. This pot to the top corner, and you called it, Gaz. He took his eye off the pot to concentrate on the cannon. And that's all it takes at this level.
Frame 6. Shane Thompson to break.
So Shane, with his back against the wall, comes to the table to break off. The one good thing he's got going in his favour is we're 5-0 very, very quickly. So 27 minutes left on the clock. He does have time to turn this one around.
And that is the best break of the match for me. And he's made a couple of balls, and he deserved to make a couple of balls, because look how clean and straight he hits this. I was talking about that target on the back cushion there that you'd like to keep the cue ball within, and that was bang in the middle of the back cushion, had the ball not have nudged it.
And he's got the rewards as well with a lovely split of the balls.
Yeah, and he's got the yellow over this bottom right corner will be his last ball, because the 8 ball passes the red into the left centre. So as a pool player, you're planning your route and working backwards. And what I mean by working backwards is he'll have already chose his last ball here before he potted his first one. And his last ball will be the one that's over this bottom right corner.
It helps him if the left-hand one of the 2 yellows goes to the right centre. You could see him having a very good look at it, but I think the way he's dropped that in, I don't think it does, but it's not a major problem.
Nothing fancy here, just play a little soft screw shot, hold the cue ball on the red.
I like the way he's played that in terms of, I was slightly concerned that he would overhit that and the red could then block the centre pocket where the 8 ball's going, but controlled it lovely.
Would have liked the cue ball out another inch or 2. Still don't expect him to miss it, but
And he doesn't miss it, so Shane Thompson is on the board, and importantly for him, that was a very quick finish off the break as well. He's up and running, 5-1 behind, he trails, but there's still time on the board. But this is where the you know, when your opponent's got such a big break like John has, you need him to give you some help here and have a couple of dry breaks as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When your opponent has a break like John, that's 2 breaks of serve effectively that he needs to break John's break, or for him to break dry, or something to happen on the break, which you'd have to say is very unlikely, especially the way that John's playing. And you'd have to say this is a very, very good performance from John, certainly considering how he played in his first match. This is a complete contrast, and also a complete contrast of body language and everything, really. Almost looks like a different player.
Yeah, freedom, positivity. 8-ball goes close to the centre pocket, but stays on the table. Golden break in operation. If you make the 8-ball off the break, you do win the frame.
Once again, look, see, he keeps that, drives that cue down through the bed of the table. You see a lot of players, they break and the tip flies up towards the ceiling, and what that does is it loses power. See, John kept that right down through the bed of the table, which drives all that power and energy through the cue ball, and then in turn through the front ball and through the pack.
He does generate a lot of power. Got to be careful with this shot. Make sure you don't tie the yellows up.
I think he's going to just screw his bad yellow out. Yeah, that's a good shot. You see this spin on the cue ball? He played it with a lot of right-hand side just to turn it over and spin his bad ball out.
So all the yellows now in the open. Tough cut along the top cushion now, but once this is out the way, which it's not. First mistake really in the match from John Rowe.
Yeah, that's a first missed pot, and that's a bit of a bad one. He'll be disappointed with this. So he just overcuts it.
Yeah, allowing Shane, giving Shane some hope in this match. Shane's overhit this positional shot by a distance as well. I have to say, this feels like very important moments in this match, because if Shane can find a finish here, which is it's still on for him, it's not easy, but it's still there. You know, he's breaking off next. All of a sudden, it could certainly get John thinking about it, looking over his shoulder.
Yeah, and now he's played and landed here. These reds are a little bit fiddly now, because the 2 yellows that are close, sorry, the 2 reds that are close to the cue ball here, only the outside one pots. But he's played a good shot here. He's landed on the outside one. The 2 that are over the centre, the one that's closest to the pocket there, that one does pot as well. But they only pot if you get the cue ball in the right place.
That's not ideal.
No, that's far from ideal. You see, he's just tapped the table there with his chalk, and he's shaking his head a little bit because the 8-ball is now blocking the red that's closest to this left cushion.
Oh, I tried to make the one in the centre off the one above it.
It was actually, it was a clever shot. It was great vision to spot that shot. So he's playing off the first one to knock the second one in, to knock the third one down the cushion. Great vision. He just didn't quite execute it properly, but I don't think there's many players that would have spotted that one. I certainly didn't.
Yeah, I just wondered whether he was trying to take the yellow at the top of the table or off the table and keep it tight, but he's played a good shot, or he's attempted a good shot. The only good news in terms of he hasn't made the red is at least it hasn't knocked the 8-ball into a particularly nice position for John here.
No, and I think John would have liked an angle on this one down the cushion to stun across and try and dislodge the red or the black with this shot, because whenever you're playing a cannon, the key is to try and do it while you've got other balls on the table as options to land on. If John feels as though he can play this with a trace of running side, get the cue ball to hit the side cushion. As you can see there, he's pointing with his cue to get the cue ball Just missed the red up the side cushion.
He has to go close to the red, doesn't he?
Develop the black, yeah. Again, the most important part of the shot is you pot the ball that you're playing, and again, he took his eye off the pot, concentrating on the cue ball.
This frame has got very tense, and John has had a massive nudge here. Shane should be happy that he's missed and he's coming to the table, but John has nudged a red. Really awkward for him. So just a safety shot here from Shane. Get the yellow off the table. Leave the cue ball in the top right-hand part of the table and try and limit John's chances. John's coming straight away to have a look at a plant.
So just to explain that shot, as long as you make contact with your own ball first, you pot your opponent's ball, that shot is just loss of turn.
That was a great plant from John, but the red got in the way of the next yellow.
I think you're going to see another one of those loss of turn shots here. So just plant the yellow onto the red, and with the cue ball, he could even pot the other red over the middle. And potentially snooker Shane on his last ball. I know that all might sound a little bit complicated, but red onto yellow.
Didn't try and play it in the end.
No, and the problem with the shot that he played is he hasn't gained any advantage. In fact, he's now at a disadvantage because Shane will just play the red in bulk and leave the cue ball on this right-hand side of the table somewhere, and John snookered.
Yeah, it certainly gives Shane the tactical advantage.
Yeah, I think John missed a little bit of a trick there.
Even if he doesn't play the shot that you called in terms of getting the red over the middle off the table, just get the one over the bottom right off the table. Your yellow stays near the pocket, and then you're putting Shane under real pressure to find a shot. Now he's in quite a bit of trouble. Fairly comfortable to hit off the right-hand side cushion, but not gaining a huge amount by going that way. That's well played. And he's still in a little bit of trouble here. Shane just had a quick glance as he came around the table for this red to the top right, which is a big shot.
And he's playing it. He feels as though he needs to be aggressive.
Brilliant.
Fantastic shot.
Yeah, brilliant. And I think that part of that decision comes down to the match clock. 5-1. Now, because this frame's drifted on a little bit, the clock is now starting to tick down. We're into the second half of the match. I think you're right. I think Shane feels he needs to make it happen here.
Yeah, and that's very good awareness from Shane, you'd have to say. He feels as though the match clock is now a factor. It's 18 minutes. He's 5-1 behind. He felt as though he didn't want to waste another second on that frame.
And after making that one to the top right, the rest was fairly comfortable for Shane, and he does manage to get another frame on the board. Still trails 5-2, but it is his break next. And he'll be looking for a repeat of his last break where he made a ball and had a really nice run out. And he already cut this gap down to 2 and put John under pressure. And, well, that facial expression tells you he probably knows he may have missed a trick in that tactical exchange.
Well, he'll be sitting there thinking he should be putting his cue away now and walking away a 7-0 winner, because he had a great chance to frame before also. And he isn't the guy that you want to start letting come back at you.
Especially when you're a player that, like John, in the position he's in this year, that hasn't had that, you know, the deep runs, the huge amount of victories. It's going to feel more, the closer this gets, the harder it's going to feel for John. That pressure's just going to build. Not quite as clean as his previous break, but still makes a ball, but it's a messy, messy layout.
Yeah, he'll definitely be going reds, but you're right, they are a little bit messy. Not completely ungettable because he has options. Well, he did have options, that was, before I think he snookered himself, or certainly snookered himself on the potting angle of this to the middle.
Yeah, he jumped around to have a good look. I think he can just about see the red, but can he do anything with it? A little swerve, try and play maybe red off red at the bottom of the table.
Foul.
No, he didn't. He was just trying to hit it in the end, and he does give away the foul. So cue ball in hand for John Rowe, anywhere on the table.
And not the most inviting, these yellows, even with cue ball in hand.
If you're in John's position here, do you even think about being aggressive, or you just want to keep it messy when you consider the match clock? I know there's quite a long time left, but wouldn't mind if this draws out for another 5-6 minutes.
Yeah, I think irrelevant of shot clock, I don't think I would be going too aggressive here. I think I would definitely be playing some sort of defensive shot, and I don't know if why John's playing these in bulk here. I don't know if he's forgot that he's got cue ball in hand anywhere on the table.
Yeah, he could well have done.
Because to play that one has completely baffled me, because these rules, a foul is only one visit, but you can place the cue ball anywhere on the table. And it is literally anywhere on the table you can put it. So he could have definitely put it in a better position than he did here.
John, of course, fairly new to these rules, been playing them for a year or so, but has a long history in another rule set. So maybe it is one that is just let slip there. I think he was trying to pop the red at the bottom of the table by flicking off his yellow. Hasn't managed to do so. And the only bad ball on the table for Shane is going to be the 8-ball.
Can he get into it now?
He'll take that.
Yes, he can.
He will take that. Just a couple of tactical errors here from John, keeping Shane very interested in this match. That was a lovely shot. Really wanted to get rid of the red at the bottom of the table and leave the one just under his hand, his last ball. So delicate little drop in there. Oh, don't snooker yourself. He's okay.
His heart would have been in his mouth there when he saw that coming off the cushion. You can see the dead straight, silky cue action of Shane Thompson there. If you watch how straight he keeps it, how still he keeps his head.
Just grazes the near jaw, but does drop in, and an excellent finish from Shane. Pulls a little face as he sits down, but he's really ramping the pressure up on John Rowe now. Have a look at his breakout shot. When there's that many yellows around, it is difficult to get the 8-ball out in any sort of way, but he'll be happy that he just nudged it so it went on to the corner. But he's still going to need some help from John here. John breaking off next.
Oh, I did say he would need to break his serve twice. He's broke it once, and this would be the second time. If he breaks his serve here and effectively holds serve. And what happens in this situation is the pressure now reverses, because Shane Thompson has gone from being 5-0 down under the pressure to John Rowe reversing the pressure back on John Rowe, because when your opponent's coming back at you, it isn't a nice feeling, because not only do you have the pressure of the circumstances and how far you were ahead, you start thinking all sorts of strange things, like if I was to lose this match from 5-0 ahead.
Yeah, it's allowing negativity into your head, isn't it?
It is, and it's hard not to allow those thoughts to creep in, especially when in John's situation he's had chances in all 3 of these frames that he's lost.
Yeah, in a strange way, it's easier if your opponent's just done 3 off the break. You can just put that to one side, but knowing you've had chances, and he has another chance here. He only has one bad red on the table, and it's the one he's just tried to move. It's still not a great red.
No, it's still awkward. it's a better red than it was, but it's still a little bit awkward to get on because he's going to have to take the one over the pocket now.
He could play for the yellows. It's not perfectly in the middle of the pocket, but he could play for that skill shot red onto yellow, but it wouldn't be an absolute certainty. Might be what he's thinking.
That's exactly what he's played. He's played your shot. And the reason why I like this shot is because, remember at these rules, if the red stays over the hole, that would only be loss of turn. Or if the red follows the yellow in behind it, that is a legal shot. It's called the skill shot, and you can carry on. And if it does follow it in, he's going to be dead straight on the ball into the middle. So he doesn't need to worry about the cue ball here.
Extension called.
Just calls for his extension. Extra few seconds to work it out.
One thing to note with the skill shot is you do want to play it with a little bit of backspin, because the backspin then transfers onto the object ball like that and makes the object ball go forward. If you play that with topspin or play it hard, the object ball tends to just stop dead. So he just played that little soft screw shot which transfers the backspin onto the object ball.
Also still a big shot. I know that it's not giving away a foul or anything like that. It's just loss of turn. But I think the yellow does go past the 8-ball at the bottom of the table. So it would have been handing Shane a great chance if that doesn't go in. And it's an excellent shot. And he now has it in his control to get one frame away from the quarterfinals.
Yeah, a little puff of his cheeks there because he's left the cue ball a little bit closer to this side cushion than he wanted. Good recovery, and again it's all just about picking the angle. So we want an angle where the cue ball can just drift down the table to make the 8-ball that little bit easier.
I think he's straight or just below straight on it, so I don't think he can drift down, but
I think he can just get far enough. Just past the middle's fine.
Yeah, more angle than I thought. Comfortable enough. So this to stop the rot. He's lost 3 frames on the trot. No mistakes with that 8-ball. Excellent visit to the table from John Rowe.
Frame.
And he goes 1 frame away from the quarterfinals. And that will be a big, big relief. You can almost see that in his body language, having lost 3 straight frames. And he sits down knowing that worst way, he knows he's going to get to break off with a chance for winning it off his own back, even if Shane does manage to break and clear himself here. Shane knows he's got it all to do once again.
Yeah, Shane just shaking his head there. He had a quick look at the match clock and then had a little wince to himself as if to say, I'm not sure there's enough time left for me here.
Yeah, and the other factor with the match clock as well, of course, is that if it finishes tied when the match clock runs down, so essentially imagine Shane wins 3 frames and the clock runs out, then you go to a 6 red shootout, which Shane is, he does not want to be involved in. He's not, it's not his forte. He'll openly admit that.
No, and what he has done is, as you can, I'm sure you've noticed, he's changed his break. So he pulled the cue ball here over to the right-hand side, look, and he's using what we call the cut break. So he isn't hitting the first ball, he's hitting the second ball down. And the reason why he's gone to that is because, as we mentioned before, Shane is very aware of the situation with the clock. And the reason he's changed to the cut break is because in this tournament, there is a golden break. So if you pop the 8-ball off the break, you win the frame. And that's exactly what Shane was trying to do there with the cut break.
He actually got some good momentum on the 8-ball there towards the centre pocket, which is often the way for a golden break, but doesn't drop this time. And it is the most awkward ball on the table here for Shane, but he should have a good chance of getting nicely on it with the way the reds are laid out.
And the reason why players use the cut break, especially when they're trying to make the 8-ball, is because they feel that the cue ball comes off the side cushion and then goes back into the pack almost like a second break, and that gets the 8-ball tracking around the table a little bit more than the conventional break would.
would have had in the back of his mind that the red that's left over the right centre wanted to be his last ball, with the 8 ball being so awkward on that cushion. And he's worked it so that he can do that. One good pot to the corner now. Would love to have been a shade straighter on that previous shot, but this 8 ball for a very good break clearance. Oh, it slides in. That's about as wide as you could risk it being.
Oh yeah, Shane stopped in his tracks there. I think he thought that wasn't going to go in. If you just watch this, you see it just keeps sort of edging towards that left knuckle, and any harder that would have stayed.
I think come the day 4 of this event, that won't drop in. Brand new cloth this morning. So the balls are just sliding in a fraction, making the pockets play a little bit bigger, which helped Shane on that occasion. And he closes the gap once again. But John Rowe sits there and he knows, and he knew the minute he sat down after making his last break clearance, that he's breaking off in this frame. He's got it in his own control.
Yeah, and the way he's been breaking, I think he knows that he is going to get a chance to win this match. You just have to be ready to take it.
Break. Leading 6 frames to 4.
Not the massive explosion we've seen from John in the past, but still makes a ball and actually still gets a reasonable split.
Yeah, I think not all of these balls were touching, so something important to remember, that even when you're setting the balls up yourself at home in the pub or the club, that you want to try and make sure that all 15 balls are touching, because if they're not and there's gaps, that can affect the way that the balls break sometimes. And we call it a bit of a slug rack, and I think that there was a couple of balls that weren't touching there.
I would say it's easier said than done to get them all touching. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but he'll be happy with the chance he's being handed. Knows it's in his own control here. All the yellows have opened up nicely, and the 8 ball.
They have, but they're not quite as easy as they look here. Hence why he's now cutting this one into the middle, and he's going to play a cannon. And he has played a cannon, and it's gone wrong.
Slightly surprised by the choice of shot. We have reached the 15 seconds, a shot part of the match. Final 10 minutes.
Yeah, the cannon went doubly wrong, didn't it? Because he didn't only tie a yellow up, he also tied the 8 ball up.
Oh, that's not brilliant. Still goes, but this is getting very, very difficult. He can still cut this into the right centre pocket, but the cue ball's running a little bit loose. A lot of reds to get through as well.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? Once you play one bad positional shot, the next one just becomes a little bit harder and a little bit harder, and then eventually he's now snookered himself.
Played that shot with control. In that sort of situation, would you be more tempted just to give that a big hammer? You're going to be in tactical disadvantage even if you don't foul on that shot, so why not try and make something happen?
Yeah, sometimes I think if the percentages say, yeah, give it a bit of a lash and hope you fluke it in one of the pockets, but in that situation I think he felt as though he wasn't gonna, there wasn't many pockets available from the position of the balls. Oh, that was unlucky.
And actually you can't argue against his decision in terms of he ended up having a better opportunity to make the yellow off the cushion with control. He would have fancied going close to making this the way it was left. Okay, it hasn't dropped this time, so Shane has a chance here to cut the gap to 1. You'll see Shane just rushing a little bit more now. That's not necessarily because of the match situation, but more because we're at 15 seconds a shot. He does have half an eye on that match clock, which is down to the final 5.5 minutes. As I mentioned a minute ago, he won't want to be in a 6-red shootout. He will want an opportunity to try and get this to win it on his own back. Even though John would have the break if it gets to a decider.
He's just having a look at the double. think you play on it in the middle. It does drop in the middle if he's behind it, so I don't think he needs to play the double. But he is going to play the double, and that's short. So he is going to have to drop it in the middle now, because I don't think he can double it.
And it's a much harder drop in the middle from this angle than where he would have tried to get it. Oh, he straightened it up.
Oh, he's played it with a load of side and straightened it up.
Wow.
Wow. Where was the cue ball? But watch the cue ball here. Keep your eye on the cue ball here, folks, because it could be in the corner.
Oh, he's missed the cut. Possibly because he was concerned with the cue ball. He looked like he was in perfect control to play the shot that you talked about, just to play on the one into the right centre pocket. If you get right behind it.
Yeah, and it was definitely the wrong shot to play on the double. He could have played on it in the middle. But the only thing I will say in his defence is when it's 15 seconds a shot and it's bleeping down, your mind can sometimes become a little bit of a mush. And that's a strange shot from John, because he's left him a free go at the double, and he can play it at pocket weight, that he covers the pocket if he misses and blocks the yellow. Like that.
Oh, here we go. We've seen John play one skill shot. We could well see him play another one now, but this one's for the match. Oh no, of course you can't play the skill shot on the 8-ball, of course. International 8-ball rules. I was getting a little bit carried away there.
He has to play the cross double.
So yeah, you're absolutely right, Gaz. It was a free shot from Shane. And we are going to go down to just one frame minute. 3 minutes 25 seconds left on the clock. And Shane will be breaking off. This is the cross double that John was left with. For a second there, I was getting excited, thinking he could play another skill shot, because you have to play your final ball in its own, or the 8-ball in its own shot. So you wouldn't be able to play the skill shot on your final ball and the 8-ball.
You can see the amount of left-hand side that he's played to straighten the double up, and what that does is the amount of left-hand side and screw. What manipulates the doubles and the angles that doubles come off at is depending on where you strike the cue ball, whether you put backspin, topspin, side spin, all of those.
And the pace as well.
And the pace, all those contribute towards what happens. Sticking with the cut break.
Big moments here. Well, he's got the 8-ball in motion, but nothing else. And this isn't the worst layout for John Rowe. 3 minutes and well, just over 3 minutes left here.
Yeah, and it's just over 3 minutes, but 3 minutes is quite a long time to waste when it's 15 seconds a shot. Okay, he has one extension, which he'll probably use now.
He has used now. Yeah, it's almost 3 minutes. It's just that shade too long to really just mess the table up. 2 minutes, I think you'd be a lot more comfortable. I'm not sure I'd be chasing a finish here if I'm John, because I think your odds against making it, the deeper you get into it, the more chance you've got of leaving a good run-out chance for Shane Thompson. So potting 3-4 balls isn't ideal.
To be honest, I don't think I'd have potted the first one. I think I would have just clipped the first one up the table and put the cue ball on this top cushion, and left Shane with the problem of the yellows. As I said before, it's easier said than done sitting here, because when you have that 15-second shot clock ticking down, it really isn't easy to think logically out there. Just as I was saying that, Shane wasn't expecting the cue ball to make contact with that second red, and because it has, he's gone off in the corner.
So now John has one bad yellow, and he's going to leave himself an angle to develop it on his second shot. If this comes out, John Rowe will have his opportunity to make the quarterfinals.
Good shot. Controlled it nice.
Yeah, I like the pace he played that at. Didn't just thrash into it and hope it came on. He delicate little nudge over the middle pocket.
So the 8-ball is a little bit surrounded, but it does go into this bottom left corner as we look, and I think that is the pocket he'll be playing it into. So the pocket into the black into the same pocket as he's just potted that yellow will be the plan. So one into the left centre, one into the right centre, and the 8-ball into this bottom left corner for a place into the quarterfinals. and what you'd have to say, the biggest win of John Rowe's season.
Yeah, I think without a doubt. He has worked this really nicely, and this is for the match. And there it is, a brilliant performance from John Rowe. He knocks out our #1 seed, Shane Thompson, with an excellent 7-5 victory, built on the back of a great start where he raced to a 5-0 lead. He was pegged back and made to work for it in the end, but he does get over the line, and he will go through to the quarter-finals.